I'm in council chambers. Okay. All right, I'm in chambers along with CAO Peter DeJong, CFO Pamela Rook, and Municipal Coordinator Carla Duarte. And I see all council items in attendance. We have quorum. I'm calling the meeting to order. The items, first thing out is the reporting out from our closed session. There are two items. The first, with many applications to consider, the Curly Stewart Memorial Trust Fund Committee recommended a 2021 award winner to council, and council approved that. Release of the information will come from the committee in due course. First item. The second item is that in the April 30th special council meeting, the CAO's contract was discussed and agreed to by the majority of council, and it will be extended for 3 additional years. And that'll conclude the reporting out. So we're back into the public. And so the public participation part of the meeting will begin now. There's 10 minutes allocated for a topic of your choice. If you'd like to unmute or put your hand up, if there's a rush to the door, we'll get you in. We've got 10 minutes for this section. If somebody'd like to come forward, please unmute and start now.
That would be me.
That would be you, Ruth.
Hi, good evening, council and staff. This evening, you're receiving a report from the CEO on the greenhouse gas emissions action items. I just wanted to add to that as a member of the Climate Action Committee, looking forward to discussing it. But I just wanted to add for context that when the Village of Lions Bay signed on to the Climate Action Charter back in 2008 or whenever that was, 2011, there was a commitment. There were 3 additional commitments that the village was making. One was to become carbon neutral in the village's corporate operations by 2012, measure and report on community GHG emissions, and create complete, compact, energy efficient rural and urban communities. Those were the 3 general commitments that the village was making. So many communities in British Columbia have achieved carbon neutrality. In the Howe Sound region, and the members of the Howe Sound Community Forum, the town of Pemberton, which is a small town with resort municipality of Whistler, Squamish, SLRD, Metro Vancouver, there's several that have achieved carbon neutrality. So I just wanted to put that out there as an additional note for the discussions, and it would be welcome to know whether this council and the village would still be interested and committed to looking at how to become carbon neutral in the corporate operations. That's it.
Thank you very much. I don't have a response for Mrs. Simons. Councillor Cunliffe, Councillor Barmera, you can reply if you like, or we'll make note of what Mrs. Simons had to say. Thank you very much, Ruth. Is there another member of the gallery that would like to speak? Going, one more chance. We'll take that as no. Thank you very much, everybody in the gallery. You get another opportunity later. So that concludes public participation piece of the meeting. We are now on item number 7, which is review and approval of minutes.
No, sorry, we're on item number 6. You have to call.
Oh, sorry. I apologize. I circled it once, not twice. This is the opportunity for any person who considers they are affected by proposed bylaw number 604/2021, and that is item number 10B of this agenda, to please come forward and make a representation to council.
Oh, you're on. I think that's meant to be 12B. You don't have a 10B on the agenda.
Could you repeat that, please, Councillor Abbott?
I think that's meant to be 12B. I don't see a 10B on the agenda.
Thank you. Just a second. Let me just click.
Yeah, that's right. 12B. Sorry.
12B. My apologies. 12B. Thank you, Councillor Abbott. 12B. please join in. Thank you. Back to the opportunity. Any affected person would like to make a representation, please do it now. Okay, there being none, we'll be bringing this forward later in the agenda. Next item number 7. Thank you, CEO, for catching me on that. Pretty important piece. We're doing approval of minutes of prior meetings, and this is the special council meeting of April 30th. I've already reported out on that, and that the minutes be received as circulated. I'll put forward that motion. Can I have a second? Council, show of hand. Thank you. Any changes, amendments? There being none, call a motion. All those in favor, please confirm by saying yes. Opposed, no.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Confirmed. Next one, regular council meeting of May the 4th. I'll put forward the motion that the regular council meeting minutes of May the 4th be received as circulated. I have a second, please. Thank you. It's on page 11 of your package. Any changes, amendments, additions, deletions? Gone. There being none. All the motion. All those in favor of the minutes as reported, please confirm by saying yes. Opposed, no.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Carried. Business arising from the minutes. Council members, anything you have? I have nothing. There being none, moving on.
I have-
Unfinished business. Oh, thank you. Councillor Abbott.
I have one on page 15, the issues of PLV wraps. I shared with council, I got some feedback for some neighbors on Mountain Drive who suggested that the decision whether we should have wraps or not might be swayed by the cost of the wraps. And I think the CEO suggested if that was the case, we could possibly revisit it to immediate neighbors or near affected neighbors once we know the costs. Is that where we're heading with this, Eva, or anyone else?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a tricky one because, how do you draw the line at who's affected? Other than, if you're a neighbor, obviously, but if you drive past it every day on the way to your house, are you an affected person? Which would be a much larger group of people. I'm just not sure where that consultation begins and ends, or how best to achieve it. The cost was included in the survey that was put out in the Village Update for 2 consecutive weeks. When you clicked on the item, they were taken to a particular feedback page that noted the 3 different options and the cost of wrapping all 3 as being $30,000 approximately. So that cost was put out there. Whether or not we need to drill down on it further is, I guess, up for debate.
I didn't realize the cost was shared. I guess I hadn't done the survey.
If I may, we did only receive responses from Upper Bayview, and we could potentially go out to a mail out for a radius of 300 meters and see if anybody's interested. It could save us having to wrap 2 of the kiosks and save that cost.
Is that an offer, Public Works Manager?
I suppose it is. If council's okay with a 300-meter radius, we can do that.
Councillor Abbott?
Yeah, I think it, I was surprised people's opinion changed when they heard the cost. And so I think that's relevant. We should ask that in the other areas as well. 300 seems fine, arbitrary number. I do think if immediately affected neighbors should be given the opportunity to feedback.
Okay, take that as council's interested. To the council members, anybody disagree with the offer the Works Manager's made?
I think if there's a way to save money and not wrap some of them, if people are comfortable with that, that's a great idea. It's less work.
Good. Okay, I think we'll move on. Public Works Manager, I consider that you've got your green light from council.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. Councillor Abbott, any other items on that particular agenda or business rising?
No, not for me.
No. Thank you very much. That concludes business rising. Unfinished business. And the 4 items there are item 203 is done, 204, 205, 206, all done. Thank you. That concludes that. The next piece, and this is the Trees, Views, and Landscape Committee application, but within the other part of the direction is item 12C. Just fumble for a second, which is the community engagement. I would propose that we move 12C just ahead of 9B. I'll just confirm that with my colleagues. Would that be fine? Should have done that at the front. Thank you. Councillor Abbott, you're good with that? Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, so we will go to the 12C, which is, and this is the staff recommendation for council. It's on page 267 of your package, that council direct staff to undertake community engagement on the draft amendments to the Trees, Views, and Landscapes Bylaw number 393, 2008, as outlined in the staff report titled Public Consultation for the Consideration of Amendment to or Replacement of Trees, Views, and Landscape Bylaw number 393, 2007, dated May 25th, 2021. I'll put forward that recommendation as a motion. Can I have a second, please? Thank you, Councillor Abbott, and we'll begin with the discussion on this. CAO, did you want to start? And we'll go to the councillors.
Okay.
Thank you.
Municipal Coordinator Carla Duarte has laid out a number of potential changes to the bylaw. And with the scope and ramifications of some of those changes, it was thought that public consultation on the proposed changes would be in order to ensure that we're hearing from as many residents with varying views on the matter as possible. I do want to point out that, so what we attempted to do here was to try and sort of balance a number of factors. We have a bylaw right now that allows one to cut during the nesting season if one gets certified clearance from an arborist that there are no nests in the trees to be cut. That is something that is similar to many other bylaws in the province. There are some that have a higher standard that require a registered professional biologist as a qualified professional in order to determine that particular issue. And so I did talk to an RP bio and just to find out what does that really entail? What does that look like? And so the feedback that I got was that generally speaking, it's in ballpark numbers on an average application where you've got maybe a hectare or could be less, but significant plot of land or number of trees that are being proposed to cut. What they would do is a 3-day survey. So a survey is sort of there for the day and monitoring and examining and looking for birds and nests, and they would do that three separate days. So you're paying for 3 days worth of surveys for the trees in question. And generally, by the time all said and done, you're probably going to be somewhere close to $1,000, plus or minus. Sometimes if it's a smaller application and or perhaps as well, if it's the shoulder season of the nesting season on either end. Then I was told that sometimes you can do, it's pretty apparent after one day of surveys that that there's nothing to be had there, and they will provide a clearance letter or an email or a certificate that that's the case. And so that would be significantly less money, but probably still you're going to be somewhere between $300 and $500 on a fairly simple one, or one that is at either end of the nesting season where you don't have too much activity. So what this bylaw attempts to do is to sort of balance the, let's say, the cost and the obligations and responsibilities of applicants against the obligation to comply with the Federal Migratory Bird Convention Act and regulation, as well as the BC Wildlife Act. And I want to point out that neither of those acts requires any specific level of compliance other than meeting, that you need to be aware of and not contravene the act or regulation. But it's up to the person to ensure that they do that. The onus is on them. Some municipalities will, as I said, provide for a higher threshold or requirement of due diligence. And a couple, for example, would be Gibson's and North Vancouver. I forget which one, but the idea is that because they are municipal assets, that we're not talking about regulating in federal jurisdiction. What we're talking about is whether or not somebody can cut municipal assets or not cut them, and if so, when, and if so, what the conditions are for doing so. So from that perspective, there is a range that council has as an option, whether it's arborist, whether it's registered professional biologist, or whether it's outright prohibition. In the report, it's noted that prohibition may be ultra various the jurisdiction of the municipality. However, I think we actually have a little bit more wiggle room with that upon the conversation that I had with the lawyer about that particular topic, because they are municipal assets and we're not attempting to regulate federally or provincially, just govern our own assets. So what the bylaw tries to do, what it sets out in respect of nesting, and I'm just going to leave the other things for the moment. With respect to nesting, it provides in section 3.4.7 that no tree cutting may be carried out between, and then it says March 10th and May 5th, and between July 20th and August 9th in any given year, unless a certified arborist certifies that there are no bird nests in the subject tree or trees. And then it goes on to say between May 6th and July 19th in any given year, unless a qualified professional, and a qualified professional with respect to searching for nests means a registered professional biologist, and that person certifies that there are no birds nests in the subject tree or trees, and that the applicant has complied with all federal and provincial enactments pertaining to the proposed cutting and pruning. So that's the balance that was attempted to be struck. Council, of course, could decide, for example, that you want to make it more stringent and impose the requirement of having a certified or a registered professional biologist, regardless of whether it's March 10th or August 9th, which would be like the shoulder seasons of area A1 forests under the nesting graphs that are produced by Environment Canada. So that's the range is sort of March 10th to August 9th would be the full range. That's about 5 months for our particular zone. And alternatively, even more stringent would be you just can't cut. That might produce some hardships and some issues with respect to construction, access to lots that are being developed. Sometimes there will be trees that are required to be cut on the boulevard in order to effectively develop the property. There have been a number of ones like that in the past. So that would be a constraint or an issue with respect to construction season. And there are some exemptions laid out, section 3.6 with respect to municipal works and services and some other things, but generally speaking, with respect to cutting of trees under the tree bylaw, what we're looking at is 3.4.7 and the degree to which that is to be restricted or not restricted. And maybe I'll stop there before covering off any of the other proposed changes.
Okay, councillors, any questions for the CAO?
Comments, but not, if not questions.
Yeah, I have one question, I guess, and maybe you said this already, Peter, but do other communities have tree cutting moratoriums during songbird season, or would we be the only one to do that?
I'm not aware of any that outright prohibit it, but Carla, did you come across any in your research?
That prohibit tree cutting law?
Pardon?
No,
Outright prohibition? No.
no, there's always an ability or a possibility for someone to apply. There wasn't any outright prohibition.
Okay. Thanks, Peter. Thanks, Carla.
But just to clarify that we're aware of, so whether there is or not is open, but we're not aware of any at this point.
John? Councillor Abbott, any questions? Oh, Councillor Bain, sorry.
Yeah, just a couple of comments, if I may, about the nesting season and everything. It seems to me that we should be encouraging people to be doing their tree cutting in the off season, if I could use that term. And typically in the off season, as I understand it, tree pruning is best done in the fall or whatever, rather than in the springtime. It's better for the plant. Now, I'm no expert, but that's what I've been told. So it seems to me we should be encouraging people to do it at that time of year, which is away from the nesting season, sort of, pardon the expression, kill two birds with one stone. Sorry, can't resist that one.
Saving up for 2 months for that one.
That's just 5 minutes. It seems to me that the least impact we can have on the forests around us is the best plan on how we get there. It sounds like we're partway there. I think it's worth giving this a try and see if what the feedback is that we get. I don't mean to be ambivalent, but I don't think there's a real hard and fast rule here that nails it, although I'm sure the bird supporters and stuff should say there probably should be. And then we've got the other who want to get on with their projects. They would say, well, maybe not. So I'm not comfortable where we're at yet, but I think this is a step in the right direction. The other point I'd like to make is there was some talk in the preamble to this about tree replacement program, and where if somebody chops a tree down, they should be paying an application fee or something like that to replace a tree that they cut down. I know the West Van School Board has that policy, and it seems kind of goofy to me in that if you chop a tree down in the school property area or for your view, they want you to plant a tree somewhere else, which really has nothing to do with it. And I think, we got gazillions of trees here. I don't think we're running short. And actions like this to me just seem like we're sticking our hand in our residents' pockets and pulling out as much cash as we can. And I really don't want to see us do that. And I'll mute at that point.
I could go next if there's someone else really wants
Please do,
to.
Councillor Abbott. Yes, thank you.
First of all, I agree with Councillor Bain that we should encourage people to cut trees down in the fall. That is the best time to do it. Or sorry, not the fall. I think we should cut trees down in the winter, not the fall. That is the safest time to do it, because there are other birds that are endangered in the fall season, namely hummingbirds. And there's been several residents that have written in clearly quite knowledgeably on that matter. As to what we have in front of us and what we've been asked to do, I am likewise concerned about how much time we need to take to go and review the various items that have suggested changes, specifically things like replanting. I think that's a different discussion. I think right now, I'm asking that we make 2 simple changes. I think we don't need to define the season as shoulder seasons or peak seasons. I see no need for that. The federal regulations say you have to, regardless of what time of year, even in the depth of winter, the obligation on the person that's cutting the trees to make sure there's no birds in the trees. So that is already in place. So this, a different person can do it in the shoulder versus the summer, to me makes no sense. It already is in place right throughout the year that someone has to certify there's no nest in the trees. As to the idea that the arborist that can do that certification, I don't think that makes any sense. I think clearly the person doing that has a pecuniary interest. I mean, with all the best intentions of the world, he has a pecuniary interest. I doubt your arborist is going to come and sit for 3 days and look at the trees, or in the shoulder season for 1 day and look at the trees, and then come back the next day and fire up his chainsaw. That's just not going to happen. So clearly he's not going to do it to the same level of diligence, neither is he qualified. The simple changes I would like to see is, and I'm not sure about what exactly the season is if we better go down to the day, because I'm not sure if it shouldn't include forest and open, because I think we have open areas where open birds could nest, in which case it should end on August 16th, not August 9th, but that's a week apart, because I don't think that's a big deal. I think we should have an outright prohibition during the bird nesting season. If we really need to, there can be some provision in there under exceptional circumstances. You can go get an RP bio to override it, but I think we just make the statement that you don't do it during the bird nesting season. And I think if we do those 2 changes, we can do them now, we can do the right thing, we can have Lions Bay being a leader on these kind of issues, which we have been in the past, which I'd like to see us doing before. I think I would suspect it's the general will of the people in Lions Bay is to do these kind of initiatives. I do not believe we need to go back and consult, and certainly would not like to see us go through another songbird nesting season without something in place, be it a moratorium or this change to the bylaw. I'm sorry, and I do of course have comments on all the other minor changes, but it's not going there for now.
Thank you very much for that. Let's not go to the minor changes, CAO, and then we'll go back to Councillor Abbott for a second.
So I just wanted to clarify something you said, Councillor Abbott. Are you suggesting that there be an outright prohibition for the entire nesting season, but that someone can still apply under whatever extraneous circumstances and present their case and bring forward an application with an RP bio, or I thought you said, I wasn't quite sure exactly what you were suggesting there.
I was suggesting outright prohibition, and if need be, yes, and extraneous circumstances with an RP bio as part of your application, you know, it could be considered.
And so just to drill down on that a little bit further, just so that we have a little bit of clarity, what kind of extenuating circumstances are you thinking of? Is it the case where a property requires a couple of trees to be removed in order to access the property to begin their construction, which for whatever reason is going to happen? It couldn't have happened at a different time, whatever their reasons are for that. Is that the kind of thing you're thinking of?
I like to encourage people to plan around it. I do a lot of construction work, huge projects. We plan around the bird nesting season. We plan around the fish windows, and there is a rule that says in really exceptional circumstances, you can go use an RP buyer to certify you can remove a tree. But very infrequently happens. We just plan around it, and I think people can plan around it, and that's what we should be encouraging. And by making the prohibition, we're telling people to plan around it, rather than saying do it anytime, but here's what you need to do the extra step in the summer. I just think it sends a better and clearer message.
Councillor Abbott, I'm just curious if maybe a hardship clause might work in that case. I mean, if you know, hardship can be demonstrated. I'm just curious. I'm just trying to follow your kind of thought.
That's a good way of describing it. That's kind of where I was going. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Cunliffe, anything you want to weigh in, or are you good so far?
I have to say that what Councillor Albert is proposing seems very reasonable to me. So I'm kind of in favor. Yeah, I'm in favor of what I'm hearing right now.
Thank you very much.
If I may, Your Worship.
Yes.
There are several upcoming landscape restoration projects that are occurring throughout the village. And this will impact them in their ability to do the work this summer. Just putting it out there.
Could you name those for us?
Well, I believe two of the upcoming applications in this package for encroachment agreements have some tree work planned.
Thank you. Okay. Councillor Abbott, this is somewhat you leading the charge on this one. Do you have a thought on what the Public Works Manager has just mentioned? And secondly, is there an amendment you would make to the motion that we put forward?
Well, my comments on what the Works Manager just said is we're not stopping those projects. Potentially it costs you somewhere between $300, and if you delay it until the middle of the summer, $1,000. And those are significant projects. That's probably a rounding error in the budget, to be honest. And we're not. And if we allow the extraneous circumstances, hardship, like as in you have a project already started, sure, then you're going to have to take that extra step. We're not shutting down the project. And I see workshop managers nodding his head.
Councillor Abbott, do you have any friendly amendments to the motion that's on the floor?
The motion that's on the floor is the way I described it. Is that the friendly amendment you're looking for? Because that's not.
I didn't think we're looking for, I've read the motion, it's been seconded, we're discussing it. Make friendly amendments.
What's the motion that you've got?
It's right off the package, which is 12C.
we're talking about amending the bylaw, not doing 12C.
That is the amendment. Okay, the community engagement. Okay. Thank you.
Sorry, I
Okay.
thought it was for a complete ban on cutting trees during the window.
Sorry, Public Works Manager, that's where I was going to. Okay, so it's just been.
So should I propose an amendment, a motion? If we don't have a motion. Do we want to hear from anyone
Well,
else?
I think the motion is to direct staff to undertake community engagement on the draft changes.
I don't think that's what Councillor Abbott is proposing. I think what's being proposed is amending the bylaw right now to prohibit.
Oh, bypass the.
Prohibit cutting from March 10th to, he's suggesting August 16th, I think. Not sure what areas in the village would fall under the open classification, other than parks. Maybe, I don't know how they define that or how that breaks down. But either way, that there'd be a prohibition for the applicable nesting period, start to finish, with a caveat that there be a proviso for someone to bring an application in cases of demonstrated hardship. And that would probably be circumstance dependent, and that would be up for the applicant to bring that and make the case to council that the circumstances are extenuating and constitute a hardship, and that they ought to be granted the ability to cut, and what the conditions are would be up to council to decide, whether it's RP Bio or what have you. So I guess the question is whether or not, without wording, without wording being at the tip of my tongue for what a hardship provision looks like.
To be determined.
Yeah, but you're talking about amending a bylaw. You can't amend a bylaw without the wording.
Well, but
It'd be one thing for the dates is easy, and thou shalt not cut during this period. And
The original bylaw, the application in the original bylaw provides opportunity for an applicant to disclose the reason why they would like to either prune or remove the tree. I'm not sure if you want to review those and state whether some of those are considered hardship and remove some of them, because there's already some items there that could be considered hardship potentially. But that's the hardship clause is like blocking site access or hazardous,
right.
interfering with infrastructure.
So I guess what Carla's suggesting is that we would be able to go ahead and you could move a motion to prohibit cutting during the nesting season, during the applicable nesting season. And that's all you would need. You could say period. That doesn't necessarily stop someone from applying to council with their reasons why there should be an exception for them under the current wording, is what you're saying, Carla.
okay, so we're covered on the hardship and demonstrated hardship under the current legislation. We're fine. So really, we're down to the period of March 10, August 16, no cut period.
Because somebody could bring an application at any time saying, I want a permit to cut trees in October or December or what have you, but they could bring the application in July if they wanted to, understanding that they're not going to be able to, they just want to get their ducks lined up, maybe. Alternatively, they could bring that application and say, well, for these reasons, I think I have extenuating circumstances and I'd like my permit now, please. But if you won't give it to me, then I'll cut after the nesting season. So not too much change there.
So Councillor Abbott, I think we're coming back to really it's the nesting period. March 10, August 16th is the key and only change. Everything else falls within the current legislation or can be worked around.
So I think the wording would simply say at 3.4.7, if you wanted to go this route, the last line of the first paragraph would say no tree cutting may be carried out during the applicable nesting season.
Okay, that's
And that's per the, well, we've already cited the legislation. So that's all it would say, period, full stop. And then if someone wanted to apply for a permit, they would do so and make their case as to why they need to have it sooner or during the nesting season and what mitigating steps they would be taking in order to ensure that there would be no harm to nests or birds, whether that be their proposal to hire a registered professional biologist or whatever the case may be. So we wouldn't have to change anything else is what I'm getting at. The bylaw would simply say no cutting for this period. And then if someone wants to challenge it based on their circumstances, they can still do so.
Yeah,
Just as
wouldn't-
now they,
Sorry,
Go
wouldn't
ahead.
it be just as simple and even cleaner if we just change, as well as that, just change the definition of the QP away from a certified arborist to a RP buyer? Because you've got definitions of QPs in this as well, right? So then, I mean, it would be unfair to expect for someone to come, on the hardship issue, do the legwork, do an application, but not realize that it needs to be supported by an RP buyer. So he's done all this work and we haven't really told him what's likely to be accepted.
Just a point for clarification. We are talking about village-wide, or are we just talking about municipal land trees?
All land trees.
just municipal trees.
Okay, thank you.
For today.
I heard that.
CAO.
Sorry, Carla, where's the current section? Oh, there we are. Inspection by.
Second, everyone, we're just looking up the legislation.
We just cross out the word certified arborist or, and at the beginning of 3.4.7, that's with respect to that. So 3.4.6 would also have to cross out certified arborist or.
Councillor
Oh,
Barner,
no,
you're
sorry,
next up in a minute.
that's wrong. Sorry, leave that alone.
Earlier
It's
on?
not-
You'll be next up in a second, Councillor.
Yeah, I don't want to disrupt Peter. Thanks.
Thank you.
So I think at 3.4.7, all we would need to do is cross out the words certified arborist or and leave qualified professional as it exists in the proposed wording here. And at the last line, no tree cutting may be carried out during the applicable nesting season. And that would be it. And then if somebody wants to apply with a certified or a qualified professional, i.e. a registered professional biologist, they could do so and make their case for extenuating circumstances or hardship.
I'm going to come back to you, CAO, in just a second. So think about the exact wording for our motion. Councillor Barmer, you have a question?
Yeah, maybe a question and a comment. A question is really, do we provide this information to residents on a regular basis to remind them about the bird nesting season dates when they start and finish and best practices? Is that something that makes it into the view or on the website? Because if we really want to protect the season, we should be informing people on a broader scope. We really only have the mandate to protect a municipal strip of land. We don't have any mandate over people's properties and homes where most of the trees sit. So I'm just curious if there's any form of education that we do. And if we don't, if that's something we could consider doing.
Thank you very much. I think that's a wise idea. I think this is, once we get through this piece of legislation, and I think this is something that's worth going into the village update, recognizing we're talking about municipal property, but that most people following best practices would like to do it themselves in good conscience. And so I think if we did that within, I'm not sure whether it's this update or the following one as a piece, and then have it on a diary, plus also have it on our website. I think that's where you'd like to go, isn't it, Councillor Barmer?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Back to you, CIO. Do you have a proposed change so we can put the motion up?
Yeah, it's just what I read out earlier. So council would, if you want to go this route, move a motion that section 3.4.7 be amended to say any expense of an inspection by a qualified professional for tree evaluation or bird nests will be borne by the tree cutting permit applicant in order to support the requirements and intent of the Provincial Wildlife Act, the Federal Migratory Bird Convention Act, and the Migratory Bird Regulation. No tree cutting may be carried out, no tree cutting may be carried out during the applicable nesting season. And the other, so that would be one motion. The other one would be to add the definition for qualified professional as it exists in this draft before you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Abbott, does that resonate with you?
Yes, I'd like to put that forward. I just have one last question. So Peter, do we not need to define the season then, or is that accepted where the season is defined?
I think that in terms of the educational materials that we might be putting out, we can lead people to the applicable legislation and the graphs that are available. And because I don't think that we're in a position to state emphatically one way or the other, whether we're talking just forest or OSHA or open as well. So I think the applicable nesting season was probably the correct way to go, because it may change as well. So I wouldn't want to define dates in the bylaw itself. I would always want to refer to the legislation and the dates that it sets out.
I'm good with that. Can we maybe just add the word full nesting season, so we don't have this shoulder season and peak season and any confusion?
Thank you very much. I'll take that as your motion. Thank you very much. May I have a second to Councillor Abbott's motion? Thank
Second.
you. Thank you very much. Any further discussion? Otherwise, I call a motion. I think we're in a happy place here. I will call a motion now. All those in favor, please confirm by saying yes. Those opposed, no.
Yes.
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 Thank you very much. Carried.
Sorry, Peter, is this being introduced?
Pardon me?
Is this being introduced as an amendment bylaw or
Yeah, I mean,
first reading?
I think we're still going to have to come back with a bylaw to make this effective.
Okay. So did everybody hear that? This will come back one more time to us to make it.
We'll come back 2 times because we can only do 3 readings at a time.
Okay, come back for the readings. Okay, but clearly the spirit's in place. So that takes care of that, which then goes back to the actual item here, which was to, if I've got this right, then the motion previously done was to direct staff to undertake community engagement. Kind of bypass that and got right to legislation and then come back. So is the view that we are going to continue with the direction to staff, or is that going to be held? Councillor Abbott, your thoughts?
I missed that. I thought we've, other than the motion, what direction to staff?
What got us on this topic originally was formally item number 12C, which went to discussion, stopped, and then we moved to change the legislation, which we just did. So we can just leave this or continue on with undertaking staff on the public consultation piece.
I'm happy to leave it where it is. I don't see the need for the public consultation piece. And personally, I don't see the need for the other changes right now. Tree replanting and all the other things that are suggested.
Thank you very much, Councillor Abbott. I tend to agree. We've done we made the call that was the pressing one. And I believe for Councillor Barmier's early point, I think we should be doing a bit of a public education in the village update and something on the website. And I think that's where we should probably leave this to my colleagues.
I like those suggestions, yes.
Thank you very much. Then we'll just leave this as it is. And do I withdraw there?
We still got to come back with an amending bylaw.
Yeah, and we are going to come back with the amending bylaw. Okay, so CEO guide me. It just sits there in no man's land. We don't retract.
Some clear direction from council is to bring back
Okay, so
the amendment that was specified. So
this will be essentially tabled, this piece that we've done, and it'll come back with the bylaw with staff's recommendation and advice. Okay, I presume concurrence to everybody on that, which brings us back to at the midpoint of page 3 on your agenda, which is 9B, Trees, Views, and Landscape Committee, tree application number 109-265, Bayview Road. That's the street address. I won't read this again. It's here in your agenda. Other than to say that Trees, Views, Landscape Committee recommends to council that council approves the tree cutting permit application number 109, subject to the following: A, B, C, and C1 and 2. I'll put that forward, that motion. Can I have a second, please? Thank you very much. Changes, discussion, amendments. I think we know there's going to be some here. I'm going to suggest that this would be approved subject to the through the cutting moratorium period. Anybody else have any other suggested changes? Councillor Abbott, you're good with that?
Yeah, I was going to suggest the same thing. Yes.
Thank you very much. All right. Consider that part of the motion then. And any further discussion?
Oh, sorry, the amendment is
That
instead of
the
CI compliance with the bylaw restrictions regarding bird nesting season, because right now the bylaw,
that there's a moratorium to moratorium during the nesting period.
So what you have to do is actually,
August 16th.
state that the permit shall not be effective until August 16th,
There you go.
if you want to go with the latest date.
Okay, so CAOs and the municipal coordinator are asking us to be specific. So along the lines that I said during the moratorium, it'll be no cutting work prior to August 16th. That would be the amended motion. Take a second. Councillor Abbott, I'll take the nod as a yes. Thank you. Any further discussion on this?
So that's crossing out C1, which is compliance with the bylaw restrictions.
Thank you.
So what you're doing is substituting, it's not valid until August 16th.
Okay, so I think that is done. I'll call the motion. All those in favor of the motion as amended, please confirm by saying yes. Those opposed, no.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to staff and in particular, Councillor Abbott. Thank you very much for your hard work on this topic and bringing it to fruition. Next item, item number 10 is reports and staff. And this one is the Arts Council request for Art in the Park program at Wade Park. So on page 47 of your agenda, Lions Bay Arts Council be granted use of 10 chairs, 4 tables on Fridays and Saturdays through July and August 2021 for the Art in the Park program at Wade Park. And further that the rental costs for the tables and chairs be waived as an in-kind donation in the amount of $900. I'll put forward that motion. Can I have a second, please? Thank you very much, Councillor Bain. Any discussion, questions? There being none, I'll call a motion. All those in favor, please confirm by saying yes. Those
Yes.
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 good, carried. Thank you. Next one on the staff piece is the AP listing. And the motion is that the AP check listing follow-up be received for information purposes. And if you're dialing through your package, it's on page 49. I'll put forward the motion for receipt. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a couple of quick ones. I won't keep us here long. Thank you for this report. My question about the laptop was based on the fact that there was a single line item that said laptop for CAO was 3,393. I assume that was more than one laptop. So thanks for that clarity. Now I know what they pay for our laptops.
Yes, go ahead.
Sorry. Carry on, Pam.
No, I
Yeah,
interrupted you.
something to add.
Yeah, no, it was one laptop. There seem to be several questions on the laptop, and I know this has come up during budget time. So that's why I just wanted to talk in general about the laptop and what a typical laptop cost is. The laptop for this year had some special features, so that's why it was more expensive. But the general price for the laptop, to answer other questions that arose, is about $1,650 before taxes, and I explained why.
Okay, I misread that. So the CA's laptop did cost $3,400. Thank you. I think the others is the clarity I was asking for is here. Thanks very much. Or the explanation I was asking for. not to sound like a broken record, but I'll say it again on the communications agreements. We use we use TELUS, Shaw and Bell, and spend a significant amount of money. And it's $7,700 in that report. Oh, sorry, $8,000, $7,800. So I'm sure next time these contracts come up, we'll look at them again, and hopefully there's a bundling package that we can somehow reduce that on. It still seems like a lot of money.
I did want to stress that we do have a bundling package with TELUS. It is by far our biggest carrier. And that's why I said the only reason we changed the office internet, we were having issues with it, and it was recommended that we switch to Shaw, and it has been greatly improved. But with our cell phones and everything else, we do get actually quite an excellent bundling. And I agree, we're always looking to see if we can bundle, but TELUS is essentially our main provider. And like I said, we get particularly good deals on our cell phones with them. But your point is taken. Yes, we always try to look to bundle. And when the contract's up for renewal, we'll do the same.
Thank you very much. Councillor Abbott, any other questions?
Is the George Bell consulting piece part of this, or is this a separate report?
Yes, yeah, it's part of this. I wasn't sure if you wanted to speak to me because that's a fairly new expense. As we discussed in the when we had the financial statement presentation, we accrue our actual sick time, which is the practice. And because we take a lot less sick time than is earned, our accrual was growing. And by the end of 2019, it had reached $108,000, which we knew was way too high. But under PSAB, Public Sector Accounting Board policy, you can only adjust it with an actuarial evaluation. So we were getting it being shown as an error to our financial statements every year. And it was getting to the point where we could have had misstated financial statements. So the reason I engaged George Bell, I had looked, ever since I started, I'd looked at getting an actuarial evaluation because the auditors were pushing me to do it, but they're very expensive. I know when I worked at West Vancouver, the fee rivaled the audit fee. So I discovered George and Bell at a conference, and they have sort of a small wing that will address the issues of small municipalities. And what they do is usually the first year, it's a very high fee, and then it's lower in the next two. So for a fee of $2,040 per year, adjusted only for inflation for the second and third year, they spread the fee out over 3 years, and we signed a 3-year contract with them. But an option we will have is at the end of 3 years, which I will recommend to council, we don't engage them again because our accrual will be low enough that it'll take several years for it to build up again. And it'll only when it builds up that we start having issue with the financial statements, and then we could engage them again, or we could continue to engage them. But that's a fairly new expense. This is only the second year we've had that expense. Like I say, we got to a point with our financial statements that we had to start having an actuarial review. It's standard practice for all large municipalities. Smaller municipalities struggle with it because of the cost.
I read through this report fairly carefully, and I'll tell you what I was struggling with. I was looking at what is the possible risk or impact if you look at the table on page 62 of 410. If the average exempt staff member went along on a sick, long-term, I won't use the term disability, but was ill for a long period, and that person took off the time that was due to them, and assuming we'd have to replace that person, then using the average 400 hours times the average $52, we're looking at a $21,000 impact. The report doesn't seem to deal with that possibility. It only seems to deal with what people are likely to take under the normal course of sickness on an average basis based on the age of our staff and how many people typically take sick leave. So how's that other scenario dealt with if it's not dealt with in this report?
Well, it's not. it's not dealt with, because under that scenario, all this covers off is the sick time liability of the exposure of each person, and they're only looking at whether or not we have enough accrual. We still have that sick time in our bank, but we're reducing the accrual to the amount they feel is a typical amount that will be drawn. Someone does have to end up drawing more than that. They would still just draw it from the sick time that's already there. And there would be just, it's almost like a book expense in the same way reducing the accrual was. Your scenario of having to replace an employee, that will never have anything to do with the accrual. You don't book numbers like that. If someone's sick and we have to replace them, that replacement is just a cost. You try your best to absorb it, but we would never reflect that in a liability. This is just, our accrual was so high because we were accruing 100% of the sick time. It had to be reduced, but like I say, the scenario of replacement, that's just the cost of doing business. If someone gets sick, they'll draw on their sick accrual. If you have to replace them, then that is an expense that you would have to take. And you can't accrue for that because it's an unknown.
You can't accrue for that, but do we provide for that somehow, or there's no provision in our budgeting for that?
Generally not, no. You provide for the sick time. They're saying that we think this is what the sick time accrual is based on historical, and it is a judgment call. It could be wrong, but the scenario in any situation of having to replace an employee when they go on sick leave, that's just an added cost you have to take. And there's no accounting provision to allow you to provide for that. It's too much of a nebulous an amount in terms of to be an auditable amount.
Hey, Councillor Abbott. I think we've got a variety of
Move on
questions.
from that piece.
Okay, just a second. I'll ask any of the other councillors questions on this particular topic on the AP list and the data attached. There being none, Councillor Abbott, you're certainly, I know that CFO would be happy to engage you further on the topic offline, or if you want to write, that'd be fine. But otherwise, if you're good, we'll move on. So motion to receive, please confirm. Those in favor, yes. Those opposed, no.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the next item, which is Village of Lions Bay greenhouse gas targets, policies, actions, and that's on page 69 of your package. And the recommendation from staff is that the information report, Village of Lions Bay greenhouse gas targets, policies, and actions be received. CAO, this is your topic.
Yep. So what I've done is address each of the items that are in the section 9 of the OCP, which was brought into the OCP in 2010, and set targets as laid out there on page 2 of the report, along with policies and actions that were to be attempted. So yeah, I basically just tried to report as best I could on the information that we have available with respect to each of those particular items. And it's all there in the report. And I don't know that I really have anything more to add to it at this point.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, any questions for the CAO? Okay, there being none, I'll call a motion. All those in favor of receipt of the information, please confirm by saying yes. Those opposed, no.
Yes.
I
Thank
just
you very
want,
much. Councillor Abbott?
I'm good with that. I assume this is going to be discussed more fully at the next Climate Action Committee, right?
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of the things that the Climate Action Committee is waiting to receive. And so this was the meeting that was going to be presented at. And we have an action to work through this.
If councillors want to have some comments on this, they could probably better come to the Climate Action Committee, which I've done before. I guess I'll do that.
Yeah, thanks, Mel.
Very good, thank you very much. And so again, we'll see that one way or another. Next item up is the speed and traffic data on Bayview Road at the community school. And the staff recommendation is that the report speed traffic data on Bayview Road at the community school be received. I'll put that forward. I'll presume a second. Thank you. And Public Works Manager, everybody loves data when it's about speeding in front of the school.
Your worship, number 5 is update re-implementation of parking plan, verbal. Oh, sorry, no, I'm wrong.
And so it is. We're on number 4.
Okay. So the radar sign was installed on the 26th of April and left operational for 22 days. During that time, approximately 840 cars drove by this sign in both directions. The average speed recorded was 27 kilometers an hour, and the 85th percentile was 34 kilometers an hour. 99% of the traffic was traveling below 40K, 90% below 35K, and 66% below 30K. So the sign was located just outside the school 30K zone. So it seems that the school zone is working.
Contrary to what everybody seems to think, which is why we asked the police to be there. Do you imagine that some of this was due to the PRV work? I realize the numbers don't lie, but for me, it's stunning that this area seems to be conforming when many would say this is an area of speeding.
The sign was located well beyond the PRV, so it was placed so that we could catch people as they left the school zone, and it shows that people, for the most part, were just starting to pick up speed. For example, 90% were at 35K, just outside of the 30K zone.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jaffer. As you say, the numbers don't lie. Colleagues, any questions?
I got questions and comment. First of all, I'm not so sure about the PRV didn't have something to do with it. At the stage where we had the big hole, I think that was certainly slowing people down.
That was on May 7th, yeah. That was repaired, sorry, on May 7th.
Just one silly observation. We had 8,813 cars going southbound, 9630 going northbound. I don't know where the 800 cars are, but they're hiding somewhere in my neighborhood. And I'm sure that's explainable by we took it out in the morning or not in the evening or something.
Correct.
Still looking for the 800 cars. The other observation that's not shown in any of the graphs now, but directly correlates, is the busiest times were weekends when we had hikers. The slowest speeds were on the busiest days. It correlates exactly. Every day where we had more traffic, we had slower speeds. So clearly, drive behavior, everyone seems to think somehow on the weekends, people are driving faster. Well, in that area they weren't, but they couldn't possibly have because there was more traffic. So I just thought that was interesting that every single day that had more cars had a slower speed.
Yeah, I think more granularity will appear once I present the report for Mountain Drive, which is where the speed reader is located right now. So we'll get an idea of what that traffic and speed is.
Yeah, I think day and time of day kind of details is probably going to give us a better insight as to what risks are here.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Public Works Manager, the days run together for me, but I know it was by the mountain camera and it wasn't on over the weekend. Is it on now?
I didn't realize it wasn't on. I will have staff check into that tomorrow morning.
Or perhaps the digital piece is not on, but the gathering continues. I don't know which.
I will check.
I can confirm it didn't light up when you
Thank you
drove
very
past
much.
it. Sorry, Ron, I was just
Councillor
confirming
Abbott?
with you, it did not light up when you drove past it.
Okay, I'll
Okay,
check it
Thank
out.
you very much. Good. Thank you very much. Any other questions for the Works Manager on this? Something we could win money with the residents, actually.
I will add that we are getting an ICBC grant for the other 2 machines. So we'll be getting $6,000 for that.
Good. And any idea when they're coming?
About 3 weeks right now.
Thank you very much. That's great news. Colleagues, any further questions before I call? There being none, I'll call a motion to receive the report. Please confirm by saying yes. Those opposed, no.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Public Works Manager, you are keen to get to number 5. Is that yours or is that the CAO's?
CAOs.
Yep.
You can have it if you want. I'm just
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, where we're at in terms of implementation of the parking plan is a large signage order has been placed, but the sign shop is pretty backed up right now, and we're probably still a week or two, couple of weeks, I think, from getting those signs in hand, and then staff will be setting about to implement all that signage. That includes the pay parking signage in those areas that are designated to be pay parking. There is a bunch more permit required signage, a bunch of no parking anytime or no parking signage. So there's a variety of things that are due to be delivered. In the interim, we are just confirming all the locations where those signs are going. And in terms of the pay parking, all of the latitude, longitude coordinates have been provided to Precise Park Link for the parking app, so that they will show up as areas available on the app for people who have downloaded it. And yeah, for the most part, that's what's happening with those things. There'll be a push, a coordinated push once we have the signage, and we'll be implementing a lot of things all at once. So look for that in, I guess, the middle of June. And I can provide an update at the June 15th meeting. In terms of other areas, we have at the moment the porta potty at the Sunset Gate area, the trailhead, and that's on a 1 week schedule for cleaning. And I, by the sounds of it, we probably need to ensure that there's an extra cleaning around just before a long weekend. And so what else? I know that there's some items that that you would like to address, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, CAO. In no particular order, but it's a theme that is clearly, as the weather improves and we have more and more visitors, we are a welcoming community, but recent events have, I've tried to put myself in the visitor's shoes and our residents. And I think I'll just go through my wish list for the CAO and let him respond on that. It's a combination of the numerous emails that I get personally or through council, literally begging for help. And on some of them, there's been some recent incidents of hygiene issues that we wish didn't occur. So I'll just go through the piece as I see it. And my thinking is that a porta potty at the school parking lot would appear to be appropriate. It's where one of the larger marshalling areas is, and that there should be signage at or near there advising that it is there. The reason's obvious. If there's an issue with a perceived issue that the school district would not be supportive of that. I'm quite happy with the endorsement of staff and council to call the superintendent myself and see what can be arranged. I think if we're going to experience the issues that not having a porta potty have and occur with our residents, it's just as likely that, and whether it's a tennis court or the basketball thing at the school, the same thing is the same thing. So that's the first one. I'd let the CAO respond after I go through these. And I think that although I do take the next item is the works manager's point about the speeding on Bayview, it just doesn't lie. I think in my neck of the woods, just down from Councillor Barmere, who's made reference to it, there's what I would call a very significant child play area. There's a trampoline. At any given time, there's 5 kids under 10, usually closer to 8 dogs, and other adult residents doing supervision. I believe that there should be some very clear slow signage in that area. And I think the same thing for the upper mountain area just before sunset. I was there this morning, and one of the residents who I've written to was literally begging for it. Our visitors, she said that they pretty much within their block watch have sorted out with the residents that live there. They'll shame them on making sure they slow down. But the kids, the dogs, the hockey nets, the bikes, the whole 9 yards. So I think for me, I find it hard for the sake of not having a sign there to show that we are doing something. I would prefer to see in those 2 locations signage, both sides, I guess, so we're catching it both ways. I would leave it to staff where they think that the best piece is to catch it before it happens. And next, and this is throughout the village, I take it that we have substantially road calming with 3 road calming areas right in front of the school. And we've had resident complaints that people are still speeding. We did have the RCMP there. When residents say that in their neighborhood, the visitors are speeding, I take them at their word. So I'll let staff make comment on traffic calming, whether it's temporary. I've got pictures of fake traffic calming, where one presumes that the visitors would see the slow sign, kids playing right below the slow sign, and see a bunch of yellow stripes across the road, meaning they should slow down. My next item is that I think CAO mentioned that the trailhead at the gate, I don't know whether we're at the point of needing more service, and 1 porta potty is fine. I'll rely on staff, but if there's a need for 2, I'd certainly put 1 there too. I have not heard any complaints about the garbage cans being full, and I'll allow staff to comment on that. But since we are now, especially partially last weekend, certainly this weekend, and what appears to be the weekend ahead, we're going to have a significant amount of folks. So as we did last year, if it requires staff to come in on a weekend to do the garbage cleanup, and I'm afraid that's a cost that we'll have to endure. And the last thing, and this goes back to the porta potties that I would propose that we put in place, and I think of a recent incident up on Sunset. I wonder if the individual that was involved could have made it if we'd had a sign pointing where it was. And I would think that I would ask staff to consider putting signs on the way to the trailhead. I'm not going to suggest where it is, but I'll leave it with them to make it very clear that there's a rest area ahead. And hopefully my aim with the porta potties and these signage is that we avert the continuum of complaints from residents as to people not recognizing where they are. And that would be my piece. It's a lot there. CAO or Public Works Manager, I'll let you respond, and then we'll go to staff too, if that's okay.
Okay. I'm not quite sure I followed you on the fake traffic calming idea. Do you mean like temporary ones that you screw into the pavement, or do you mean just signs that suggest that there's a speed bump when there isn't?
I think the signs saying there's something that's not there is probably not effective. I can send you an example of what I would call a fake one. Basically, it's just painted yellow lines. It's a visual thing. If there was 4 or 5 stripes, an adult who's driving sees the signs, it's another signal that maybe they should slow down.
Right.
And it's cheap, easy. And ultimately, whether there are casual calming items there or not, people are going to speed or not.
Okay, yeah, we are looking into a couple of ones that would be temporary. And
Thank you very much.
talk to the school, school district about porta potty. So just so you know, the cost of porta potty is about $280 for the first month because it includes delivery. And then it's $179 and so $180 each month after that, which includes, that includes cleaning
One.
service every 2 weeks, doesn't it?
Correct. One cleaning every 2 weeks.
Right. And then we increase that to weekly at a cost of $30 a week.
$30 per clean per porta potty.
I think relative to me, and I'm sure I speak on behalf of council, that we just need to do what it takes to make it a clean location, well taken care of. And that's as much as I can use the word inviting at a porta potty. That's the desire.
Right. Garbage, I think we're just planning to monitor that and increase service as needed. We can certainly look into adding signage advising rest area ahead. I'm not sure if what's existing out there right now in terms of that, pre-designed kind of sign, but we'll see if we can add to our order.
Thank you very much, CEO. Even if it was, and I'm looking at the notice of council meetings that is put out in front of at our parking lot, if it was on a sandwich board with the plastic board, that would work for me. And it's not that hard, and I'm pretty sure we even get residents who wouldn't mind storing it and putting it out in place if need be, or it could be done in line with the bylaw officer's arrival and departure. Thank you. I think you've covered my pieces. I see that Councillor Conliffe has her hand up. Councillor Conliffe, would you like to weigh in?
Yeah, I'd like to speak on the porta potties. This is taking up an exorbitant amount of time from residents, and clearly we don't have enough. We're not doing enough. Where I work, we shut down our public washrooms almost 1 year ago. We have one porta potty in the parking lot, which is cleaned 1 day a week, and I would imagine it's used by less than a dozen. It's not inviting. So 1 day a week is not enough for the traffic that we're getting. My suggestion would be that we have 2 porta potties for everywhere there is 1 porta potty. Considering the cost is almost minimal, I would even wager that residents would pay for it themselves. My suggestion would be a cleaning schedule of Thursdays, Saturdays, and Mondays over the high season. And there are potties that come in blue, pink, and green, being gender neutral. Something that is actually inviting, because the amount of time that a resident has spent cleaning their dog after they have consumed human excrement is not inviting for anyone, and it's just not okay. So we need to do whatever we can, and if this can be clearly funded under the COVID money, it's going to be money well spent. Can I also make a suggestion, and Nye, you can let me know if we'd even be allowed to do this? The deer cameras that we can put up, can we put those just into the trails and say, hey, you're on camera, please consider what you're doing? I don't know, this is just, I don't want to shame anyone, but if I thought that I might be on camera, I might make more of an effort to get to the porta potty, and I will go on record as being a non-fan of a porta potty, and I would probably rather use the woods myself, but that's just not okay. So just my comments and suggestions.
There you go. Works manager, you can give the council the bad news, and then we'll go to Councillor Abbott in a second. You're muted, works manager.
I would say no to the camera, but that doesn't stop us from putting a sign up.
Excellent
Let's
suggestion, Nye.
Let's put that in the package, and I think we're at the point of not playing no games anymore. My recommendation is the sign is graphic. I'll just leave it at that. Councillor Abbott?
Thanks. More porta potties, clean more often. Absolutely. You got my voice on that one. It's a no-brainer. And as some of you might know, I've personally experienced what happens when you don't have enough and someone doesn't know where to go in my own yard. I think we should consider putting some at Mountain Drive would be my other suggestion. Two places most cars park are School, Mountain Drive, and then of course everyone, or most of them are heading, 90% of them are heading up to Sunset. But at Mountain Drive, maybe near the PRV at the intersection, so they have to drive by it to park there, visible. You don't need a sign because you're actually going to drive past the actual porta potty. And I do think we need more cleaning. As to picking up garbage, cleaning the bins, it might look better than it is. Residents have been doing it over the weekend, and residents shouldn't need to. So don't go there and think there's not much of an issue. Residents have already done the job for you. On the traffic calming, I do think those areas identified need traffic calming. I know Public Works Manager has a concern over snow clearing if you put permanent traffic calming measures down. Yeah, I don't drive the snow plow, so I don't know how awkward it is, but we are able to deal with it outside the school. So could we not deal with it in a few more places? I would like to just put speed bumps in. They're the most effective things to do, and see if it changes people's behavior.
So just a second, Councillor Abbott, just on the calming thing. So CAO, are you looking for them or are you ordering them or looking at them?
We're looking at them. I don't think we haven't ordered anything, have we done?
No, typically traffic calming measures are taken once the data comes back and shows that it is an issue. So let's see what the data for Mountain comes back at, and then we can opine on potential solutions at that point.
I'm just concerned if we use the data and we say it's, it's 2 Ks under the speed limit on average, we don't, or 85 percentiles there, we don't need to do it. It really is site conditions dependent. We're talking about that one particular area is after a bend. You shouldn't be doing the speed limit there anyway. If you drive around that bend at the speed limit, you're being reckless and you'll feel like you are. So let's just be careful we don't look at data too rawly and people we get it. We've got to make people drive for conditions and drive for circumstances.
Understood, but my experience in West Van is that traffic calming measures, that there's been a public outcry and backlash from residents when they're installed. And I can think of, when we installed them on Bayview Avenue in West Van, near the St. Francis in the Wood Church in West Van. So there has been backlash for putting in traffic calming. So I would suggest that the data be gathered first as a justification for putting it in.
All right, thank you very much, Works Manager. Then here's what, if that's the desire, then this will pretty much coincide with our next council meeting. Are you expecting to do the data then, Works Manager?
I was hoping to have it up for 3 weeks, but I can do something for next meeting.
Could you do something for next meeting, please? Because I don't want to go 6 weeks and then come back to the same issue. So it'd be great if you pull it for 2 weeks, I'm sure, or 2 and change, that'd be great. And I appreciate your efforts on that. Thank you very much for the offer. Councillor Cunliffe, unless you got another question.
Sorry, Ron.
Just cleaning up here. Councillor Abbott, we're back to you.
So I had one further thing, and this will probably be for future discussion, but I think we need to get some information on it. One of the reasons we're having this influx of hikers is because Quarry Rock was closed for these very same reasons. Joffrey Lake Trail was closed for these very same reasons. I don't know the jurisdictions. I don't know how they can do that and we can't. But if things keep going the way they are, we need to have a clear understanding as what we can or can't do as to that final, ultimate sort of position that no one wants to go to. I think we should, I would like to at least understand what the rules would be if we get to that point and how other municipalities did it. I'm not asking for the answer now, but I think we should have that in our back pocket.
Thank you very much, Councillor Abbott. Maybe we can address that at the next council meeting, CEO. Is that fine?
Yeah, I can look up previous
Okay.
information regarding that.
There you go. To Councillors Bain, Barmere, your thoughts, comments?
I have just a simple question. It's regarding the school school parking lot. I'm just wondering if we've had any feedback from search and rescue as to any impact that would have caused them over this past weekend as they're mobilizing for a rescue up the mountain. We had got any feedback on them, or?
Not that I'm aware of.
I'm not either.
It has informed me of what it was, but I guess I could ask him to send us all the email with that information. He did tell me.
Thank you very much.
I could repeat it now if you like, but
Could you do that?
there was an issue getting,
Thank you very much.
Okay, I'll get him to send us something.
Thanks.
Okay. Councillor Barmere, your hand's up.
Yeah, Peter, sorry if you've already mentioned this, but had we got anywhere with metering and on-street revenue generation? Is there anything to report there?
Yeah, we're getting the back end already and we're just waiting on the signage.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Peter. Appreciate it.
Good. Can't wait for the announcement that goes out with that one. Thank you very much. For those, the CAO is on the screen. He's been writing furiously. So thank you very much for taking our thoughts on this one. I think the direction's clear on more signage, washrooms, the data for the potential speed bumps, and direction for the comfort stations. Right, colleagues, if there's no further questions, we'll move on to the next topic. More questions? Fine. Next one up is 245 Kelvin Grove Way, the encroachment agreement and the S.219 covenant, and that's on page 81. And the recommendation is that the municipality enter into an encroachment agreement in section 219 covenant with the owners of 245 Kelvin Grove Way in substantially the same form as the draft agreement and covenant attached to the report, that the said 219 covenant be registered against the property at 245 Kelvin Grove Way in the land title office, and the CAO and CEO and mayor be authorized to execute both the encroachment agreement and the section 219 covenant. I'll put forward that motion. Can I have a hand for a second? Thank you. CAO, or actually works manager, this is yours.
Yeah, so the owners of 245 Kelvin Grove wish to beautify their lot and redo their driveway and a set of stairs that lead from the street up to their home. The current stairs are quite dangerous, in particular during the winter and the fall. The application doesn't consist of any new retaining walls. The existing retaining walls are going to be kept. The only issue that was brought up by staff is that the drainage system has not been investigated. So we know it's a corrugated metal culvert. We know it's 20 inches in diameter. We just don't know the condition of that drainage culvert. It currently goes under the driveway and along the frontage of the lot. It's all underground. It can't be opened up, so we can't have an open ditch there. It's too steep. And that's the same for all of the lots on the high side of Kelvin Grove for that area. Yeah, I don't know if there's any questions.
Well, there's lots of problems, so I anticipate lots of questions here. I'll go around. Councillor Bain before I go to Councillor Abbott. Councillor Bain, any questions to start on this? Join later if you like.
None for me.
Thank you. Councillor Cunliffe, any questions, or would you like to weigh in later?
I'm okay, thank you.
Councillor Barmeyer, any questions, or you can weigh in later?
So, Nye, the reason you bring that up is that there's a risk to 245 having gone through this renovation, and we have to dig it up to do repairs, and you're trying to make them aware of that risk, or why are we highlighting that 20-inch culvert as a point of discussion?
Primarily because we don't know what condition it's in. It could be failing, it might not be. I don't believe the homeowner has taken into account the replacement of the culvert under the driveway. And we definitely haven't taken into account the replacement of that culvert overall. Part of our work plan this year, later in the summer and early in the fall, is to conduct an inventory of all of our culverts and put together a budget request for 2022 to do video inspection to check the condition of all our culverts. So this is a landscape redesign that came up prior to any of our investigation into the drainage system. I think I just wanted to raise the issue with council, seeing as drainage is an issue that has been brought up by council and the IC.
Okay, so I guess I'm just trying to understand the risk, or why we would raise that as a concern. That doesn't change, right? It's the culvert is in the condition that it's in, whether they improve that area or not. Are you suggesting there's some liability? I'm just trying to understand.
We have requirements under our driveway permitting bylaw. And so the question is whether or not they are going to be required to meet those requirements under the driveway permitting bylaw and install MMCD spec culvert that would be appropriate. But
Oh, I see. So what we're suggesting is that they have to bring it up to a current standard?
Well, yeah,
That
so
would be
to the CAO's point, the driveway crossing bylaw, section 415 indicates that culverts shall be maintained, repaired, or replaced as necessary by and at the expense of the homeowner. However, we don't know if it's necessary. We don't know the condition at all. So
Okay.
it's hard to make a decision.
So would we
Based on the fact,
put a statement to that effect on the encroachment agreement, that risk is assumed by whoever's doing the work, or how do we deal with that?
I think that would be a council discussion at some point in the future, because it doesn't just apply to this one lot and this one area. It would apply to every area in the village where there's a drainage system and a culvert under the driveway. Until we have a clear indication of condition, it's really hard to make a decision on it. And I don't see holding up this homeowner from doing their plans until we have that information.
Just to talk to the inspecting and checking the condition. So your report here is not completely accurate. It says the culverts, the system begins in the vicinity of 295 Calvert Way and transverses 195 Kelvin Grove, past 195 Kelvin Grove Way. It actually daylights, it's actually open at 245 at their property. You can see into it.
Yes, there are several sections where it's daylighted. Not just in front of this home, it's also daylighted further up as well.
So I guess someone needed to, don't we own a camera? Don't you have a camera? I mean, I guess it could be inspected.
It's our camera is too small to inspect large diameter pipes. It's made for 6-inch pipe or smaller.
So,
The problem
so
comes
Nye,
if
sorry, if I could ask, go ahead, Neville. Just one more question after.
I was just going to say the problem comes in if you do an inspection, or even if the owner decides to take out the piece that he's responsible for, then you have the issue of where do you stop?
Correct.
Because in fairness, the workshop should be ready then, because if he rips up his piece and the other piece collapses, we better get ready to go marching down the street, and it's a long way. No one even seems to know where it ends.
Correct. We don't have an adequate inventory of this. We don't have a good condition of it. Having the homeowner replace the portion under their driveway will cause problems with how they connect to an existing culvert. So if they replace theirs with a brand new, let's say stainless steel or steel culvert, how do they connect to a deteriorating corrugated metal culvert that may disintegrate? So there's a lot of unknowns here. Yeah.
So, sorry, Nye, so the recommendation is to approve the encroachment agreement with the understanding that we don't know the condition of the culvert?
Correct.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. But by putting it on the record here, we're acknowledging that we don't know the condition of the culvert.
Correct.
Okay, and the owner's aware of that.
Yes.
Okay.
And so the other bonus is that we're digging up there, well, they and we are digging up their yard trying to find the
water in the
shutoff
sewer. Yeah.
sewer. So it's better than a work in progress then, really. We're getting a lot out of this, and they're getting their place. Okay. Any other questions for the works manager?
So yeah, I have one last question. So if we give them the encroachment agreement, does that extend their liability on the rest of the culvert when it's past the driveway?
No, I don't believe there's any legislative basis for that.
You know what I'm
The
saying?
driveway is theirs.
Yeah, but you know, so if you look at the picture on page 94, it shows the license area. The culvert goes through that entire license area, but the owner's only responsible for the first piece that goes under the driveway, typically without an encroachment agreement. With an encroachment agreement, does it mean he's liable for anything further? Was my question. Is the answer to that no?
Yeah,
I would defer to the CAO. It might be as Councillor Baumeier suggested, and maybe we put something into the agreement saying that it hasn't been inspected. Typically, the homeowner is responsible for just the portion under their driveway.
And I think that's reasonable, and I think that's the way it should stay. But I was just a question of that came to mind now when I'm looking at this.
We're not, I mean, as far as this application goes, we're effectively waiving the requirements of the driveway permit bylaw. If the culvert collapsed and they had to dig it up and replace it under that bylaw, there's nothing in here that says that wouldn't be at their cost or risk. There's clauses in here with respect to risk that they accept it as is. I don't know that it's necessary to amend this to add that it hasn't been inspected. Other than the acknowledgement that, it's 40 years old, so we can make some assumptions about what kind of lifespan it has left. If it failed, then that would be something they would have to deal with in order to continue using their driveway.
they'd still only be liable for the piece under the driveway, even though they've got an encroachment agreement that goes further. That's what I think what I'm hearing, which sounds reasonable, but just think they should understand that, if that's the case.
I can make
if-
make it clear to them.
Sorry, are you talking about if the portion in front of their lot, not their driveway, but the portion that goes in front of their lot within the encroachment area were to fail? Then you're asking what's the ramifications of that? Is that more or less what your question is?
I'm asking, yes, by having an encroachment agreement, does it change your obligation? Or is it still the same? You're still only responsible for the piece under your driveway. Do you take on additional liability in that area by agreeing to the encroachment agreement? I'm not suggesting you should. I think it sounds unreasonable, but I think it should be clear.
Well, I think as far as the balance of the underground pipe is concerned, it's there for the benefit of the municipality. It's pre-existing. It's not necessarily for the benefit of the owner. So, yeah, I don't see that as being a responsibility of theirs under the encroachment agreement. The encroachment agreement just basically enables them to continue with the landscaping plan and retaining a lot of the existing stuff that's there, existing lock block, retaining wall, existing retaining wall. We're not moving the drainage line. They're not doing anything with it. They're not benefiting from it, other than to the extent the rest of their neighbors are as well. So I don't see that having any impact.
All right, then just to finalize on this, questions have been asked in different ways, but bottom line CAO is the existing wording on the agreements I've got us covered.
I believe so.
There we go. Any questions on anything other than this particular topic for the CAO or the works manager? Okay, thank you very much. I'll call a motion. All those in favor of the motion, please confirm by saying yes. Those opposed, no.
Yes.
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 Thank you very much. It's encroachment day today. Next one up is 255 Ocean View. And the recommendation is that the municipality enter into an encroachment agreement in section 219 covenant with the owner of 255 Ocean View Road in substantially the same form as the draft agreement and covenant attached to the report. That the said section 219 covenant be registered against the property of 255 Ocean View Road in the LGO, and that the CAO or CFO and mayor be authorized to execute both the encroachment agreement and the section 219 covenant. I'll put forward that motion. Can I have a second, please? Thank you. Mr. Jaffer, you're on a roll here.
So the owners of 255 Ocean View have a substantial landscape and driveway renovation they're proposing. Consists of a new driveway access on the east side of their lot with stairs and planters and retaining walls. And on the west side, it includes a pathway to the street and some retaining walls. Public Works doesn't have any issue with the east side. On the west side, we have requested a 3-meter buffer between the edge of asphalt and the first retaining wall. That's in keeping with the ISL drainage report from 2018 for the replacement of the drainage system. Other than that, Public Works doesn't have any issues with the proposed landscaping.
If I can just add to this, to the Public Works Manager's comments with respect to the east side and the parking area. I believe there's intended to be a carport structure that is within the property of the applicants. That structure, I believe, will be the subject of a Board of Variance application in terms of reduction of the setback requirements. So this application does not have any impact on the Board of Variance requirements or what the board may do with that application. Just want to point that out.
Thank you very much, councillors. Councillor Abbott.
So, I just want to go back to that ISL report and the 3 meter setback. So they've shown, I think it's an 18-inch culvert here. And you're suggesting that they're going to stop short of that so that if we do follow the ISL design, we can do it later? Because the ISL design, and you all know my opinion of that, has a 750 millimeter culvert in that area.
Yeah, I have changed the culvert to a 650, which I thought was more reasonable for a shorter distance. The 3 meters is essentially to allow access for equipment should we decide to use, for example, a backhoe with the V-notch bucket to dig out some ditches in that area. We would need that room to do the work. The walkway currently, I believe, is about 7 feet wide. We've asked that that be narrowed to 4.7 feet. So yeah, it's just a mix in between.
But you've upsized the culvert to get it close to 6 inches short, I guess, or
Correct.
sorry, 50,
650.
4 inches short of what ISL's got in there.
Yeah.
Over designs. So, okay, takes care of that. I have one further question, and it relates to this one, but in general, and it's a statement you made earlier. An encroachment agreement does not give someone a tree permit, correct?
Correct. They still have to go through the tree permitting process.
And what I didn't realize when I went there at first, the lot line here is this odd shape. This goes to a peak in the middle of the lot and then tapers back. So they've already done, in my opinion, significant tree work over that lot line, I think. I was imagining if it just followed the road, the typical somewhere around 9 foot back rule kind of thing, the trees are about there or thereabouts. But looking at this lot line, they've definitely already done tree work that's outside of the property boundary.
Yeah, and the tree work that was done was on trees that were undersized. So in accordance with our bylaw.
The remaining tree work they need to do, they're going to have to come get a permit for that.
Correct.
Councillors, any other questions?
No issues.
Thank you. Councillor Abbott, your hand's up. Any more questions? Down?
So
Thank
we'll
you.
draw my hands down.
Okay, there we go. Thank you very much. No further questions then. Last call. I'll call a motion. None. We'll call a motion. All those in favor of the recommendation, please confirm by saying yes. Those opposed, no.
Yes.
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 Thank you very much. Approved. Next item. It's the 340 Ocean View road encroachment agreement and section 219 covenant. And the recommendation, which I will put forward, is that the municipality enter into an encroachment agreement and section 219 covenant with the owner of 340 Ocean View Road in substantially the same form as the draft agreement and covenant attached to this report. Also, that the said section 219 covenant be registered against the property at 340 Ocean View Road in the LTO, and that the CAO or CFO and mayor be authorized to execute both the encroachment agreement and the section 219 covenant. I will put forward that motion. Can I have a second, please? Thank you. Public Works Manager, you want to fill us in?
Sure. So the owners of 340 Ocean View would like to redesign their lot on the frontage. The current driveway is on the south side of the lot. They would like to move it to the north side of the lot. And in so doing, are going to have to put in some retaining walls and re-landscape. The only issue that Public Works has here is that the original design calls for the piping in of the ditch along the frontage. We are recommending against that. I've advised them that they can pipe in the driveway crossing and the parking pad, but the remainder needs to be left open ditch. And we've specified the material and the size of the pipe as well.
Thank you very much.
So now in these circumstances, it's not the minimum culvert size that's stated in our bylaw, which is like a 300 or something. You actually specified an upsized size culvert.
Correct.
Any other questions, colleagues?
So the ditch now would go further to the street then to avoid the retaining wall structure they've got there.
The area that they've got it piped in that you can barely see it. It's a dashed line. That's where the current ditch is right now.
Yes, okay, you can barely see it.
Yeah, so you won't be
Yeah.
changing the location of the ditch. It's just rather than piping it in, they can only pipe in a small section.
But, different standards of drawings. We've got a landscape gardener's drawing this time.
Mhm.
Okay. Thanks.
No, Councillor Burmery, any questions?
No, looks good to me.
Well, considering you're living across the street from it, you better like it. There you go. Councillor Bain, any questions?
None this time.
Great. Councillor Cunliffe, any questions?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Thank you very much. Last call, Councillor Abbott, you good? Thanks very much. I'll call a motion. All those in favor of the recommendation, please confirm by saying yes. Those opposed, no.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Carried, Caroline. Next piece is, I think we've got some reports, Mayor. There will be none from me. Councillor Barmayer, you're first on the councillor piece, but if there's, we'll draw number 2 here. If the other councillors have got something they want to say, that'll be fine. Councillor Barmayer, I'll let you read your own recommendation.
Yeah, it should be relatively short. Just wanted to get the story of this initiative on the record, sort of from start to finish, something that we kicked off March 2019. And over the years, I guess 2 years now, we've unfortunately seen a bit of scope creep on this project, and it seems to be just outside of striking distance right now. The next intake that we have is June 22nd, and after looking at some of the quotes we were getting back, it seems like we might just have to pass on this next grant intake, which is a hard pill for me to swallow personally. But I just want to get this in front of a council to consider for information. The same report will go in front of the Climate Action Committee, where I'd like to explore other project delivery models and look at how we can better set ourselves up for the next round of grant intakes. There's a couple of concepts in here that I was talking about in terms of turnkey packages versus, value engineering approach and self-delivery, where we could potentially shave some capital off and maybe make this work for us. But for the time being, the recommendation that we direct staff to support the ZEBIT grant application before the June 22nd is, I'm going to take that back. I think that's an unrealistic recommendation to make at this point. So for the time being, go ahead, Ned.
I'm just wondering if perhaps engaging with an engineering firm to create some tender-ready drawings so that we can go out for future grant applications.
Yeah, exactly. I think something along those lines, Naya. I'd like to take it up with the Climate Action Committee to see if maybe we can drum up some local engineering support, right? And maybe get some of this done pro bono. and do exactly that to set ourselves up for a more robust tender package. And looking at the different options that are in front of us, whether it's just changing the technical scope a little bit, or trying to make some more value engineering judgments. But yeah, no, that's why I brought this here, is essentially just for information for council.
Thank you very much, Councillor Barmer. Your passion on this topic, and you're certainly, we're not in a sprint. I think you know what a marathon feels like now. It was in another meeting, and I think this goes back to the Public Works Manager piece. Just for clarity, there is a budget given for this, and I think it was originally intended as capital CFO.
Yes.
Can that be converted to doing some drawings as suggested by the CAO in a different meeting to do some prep work for a year later so that we're game ready?
That would be council's decision, with the understanding that money would then have to be replaced next year once we have, a quote, and see how much we need to put aside for an EV charger. If
All right.
council approves it.
So just to recap, this is the theme where I believe the Public Works Manager and Councillor Barmer were going, is to prep today for the better day. And we have a budget that's been allocated for capital. And the suggestion I have heard before is that we use part of that capital budget for working drawings to enhance the project for the better day. I certainly understand that. Using the guidance of staff, should we be suggesting a number, or just common sense, or what's the guidance here? Or was it that we would consider a resolution that the 25,000 allocation could be used for operational purposes to further the EV opportunity?
Yes, it would be up to council what number they would want to put on that.
Okay.
Full 25. Or...
And okay.
You may want to have a discussion at the, have the discussion that Councillor Barmeyer alluded to at the Climate Action Committee, and drill down on this a little bit more, and then be able to come back and tell council, here's the recommendation for how much we think we need in order to move this to the next stage, kind of thing.
Good. Thank you very much, CEO. Councillor Barmer, we're tripping all over ourselves to try and help you out here. So are you fine with that, to noodle a bit more until your CAC meeting and come back?
Absolutely. I want to get that brain trust involved, and do some outreach. Maybe there's some connections there that we can harvest and get some value out of that. But yeah, I think we could just do a bit more thinking.
Okay, so then we'll thank you very much. Councillor Abbott, any questions?
I think you kind of spoke over what I was going to suggest, or others have spoken to what I was going to suggest. But the other thing that came to mind was, didn't we originally have some money to do a conceptual design? Didn't we underspend on that, Norm?
To some degree, I think the survey sucked up a bit more of that budget, and we do have some, but it's not quite enough to get us to sort of a tender-ready set for this. We do need to look at. I'm not suggesting we spend money on it right now. I'm just suggesting we look at other ways to get to that sort of next goal, and it could very well require a little bit more spend on let's say another survey or an application to BC Hydro.
If you come back with funds, all I'm suggesting is we've previously approved a value for CapEx 25,000 plus some stuff for engineering. If you haven't used it, you have a little bit of runway there you could already use from what we previously approved, correct?
I think so.
Thank you. As I said, I think we're all over trying to help you out here. Councillor Bain, you had a question?
Yeah, I was wondering if there's any ability to rent advertising space should we get the EV charge site to generate some revenue. And I'm thinking sort of local artisans, the store, marina, or something like that, if that's doable, or has it even been looked into yet?
Those are the kind of ideas we want to start exploring, Fred. I appreciate that. Thanks.
Well, quite frankly, I'd love to see the Kim Taylor PRV and competing with the Craig Doherty PRV, but I think you know my thinking on this. So I tell you what, then, Councillor Barmere, it would appear you've got confidence, not you would appear, you do have the confidence of council. Go forward then and bring us back a number that we can green light for you. I'll put forward the motion to receive. Can I have a second, please? Thank you. Councillor Barmere, anything else? Otherwise, I'll call.
Oh, that's it, thanks.
Good call. Motion. All those in favor of receipt, please confirm.
Yes,
Yes.
Thank
yes.
you very much. Thank you very much. Climate Action Committee, and I've got 2 people there. Why don't you read your recommendation?
Okay, well, I'll go ahead here. I'm sorry, I saw the late note. Councillor Cole Hamilton did get me the information on the presentation he brought to the CAC at our last meeting. Unfortunately, it was too late, but I can summarize. Unless we would like to go offline here for a moment and ask Ruth if she would like to. She knows more about this topic than I. If not, I can read briefly off their website. Ruth, do you have any thoughts on that?
I think if you've got the information in front of you, go ahead. You'd probably be more accurate, other than to say that this was Helping Cities Lead was a recommendation that I was hoping we could bring forward to council.
Excellent. Thank you, Ruth. Okay, so the recommendation is that the Climate Action Committee recommends to council that council supports the Help Cities Lead campaign and that council directs staff to provide a letter of endorsement on behalf of council for the campaign. And a little background here is Help Cities Lead is advocating for communities of all sizes to local governments to support the campaign. Help Cities Lead has identified the 5 very best policy tools to reduce carbon pollution from buildings outlined. Pardon me. These 5 policies are needed if local governments and the province are going to achieve their greenhouse gas emissions reduction targets for buildings. The provincial government has prioritized action on 3 of these policy tools: mandatory home energy labeling, property assessed cleanup energy financing, and regulating climate pollution for new buildings. Help Cities Lead wants to encourage the province to move swiftly on implementing these measures so leading local governments can put them to work in their communities. The remaining 2 tools, building energy benchmarking and regulating climate pollution for existing buildings, are not currently prioritized by or for action by the provincial government and will therefore remain beyond the reach of British Columbia local governments to use. That's because the British Columbia provincial government will need to first grant communities the authority they need to use them. Existing buildings make up the bulk of building-related emissions in communities. It is critical, therefore, for provincial action on these 2 remaining existing building policy tools to start now as well. So what we're asking is to support this initiative. It doesn't necessarily rein it to our community specifically, but what we are looking for at this point is to support the initiative. So therefore, moving forward, when we do need to draw on these resources, they are at our disposal, and we do not need to go through provincial regulatory bodies in order to achieve this. So this is the recommendation, and I am looking for support from council to please write a letter to help communities lead.
Councillor Barmere, are you a seconder?
Yeah, I'll second that. And I'm sure we can find an endorsement letter, so it doesn't take up too much staff time.
There is endorsement letters on the website. I could forward that to staff to look at.
Okay, fair enough. Council, any questions for the 2 CAC members? There being none.
Sorry, I didn't. Could somebody explain to us what obligations or what commitments we might be doing by doing this? It's a little difficult to process all the information from someone reading from a website.
So from my understanding, there's no obligation. It's just the more support that this initiative has, the more voice towards the provincial government and releasing these sorts of responsibilities to local governments and taking them out of the hands of the province. So I believe Kitimat, from my recollection, if Norm or Ruth, you remember, was one of the very first communities in the province to sign up for this initiative. And it really is more about volume and noise as opposed to action. So it's just going, we're helping to support a community like Nelson or a community like Vernon simply by endorsing this as a community for the provincial government to take this seriously and let communities, local communities, make their own decisions.
Okay, I'm being asked to believe there is a free lunch in the world.
There's
You know, maybe we bring an endorsement letter to the next meeting and along with the presentation that we got, so that the balance of council can see that presentation and maybe understand the ask a bit more clear. Because not having the information in front of you, yeah, understandable, it's a little difficult to weigh in.
If there's no hard deadline, Norm, I'd prefer to understand it. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to take the view of the offer from Councillor Barmere, and we'll table this till the next meeting, if that's fine with Councillors Cunliffe and Barmere.
Yeah, I don't believe that there was a hard deadline.
You come forward with the same recommendation, your chosen endorsement letter and your background stuff, and I think you'll get your answer right away.
Appreciate it.
Is that fine? Councillor Cunliffe, good, thank you. Good, next one. Thank you very much to the two councillors for this. Emergency services, it's the RCMP report, which is on page 227. I would put forward the motion to receive this. It's for March and April. It's pretty modest activity. For purposes that we discussed in another meeting, the CAO and I'll be talking with the staff sergeant. I'd like to drill down more into any vandalism or let's call it visitor related items between that I may not understand how they occur here or are reported. And so we'll deal with that and advise you at the next meeting. Okay. I can't answer any questions, so I'll put forward the motion to receive this. I have a second. Thank you. And any other questions beyond what I've mentioned that I will do when I'm with the CAO and the staff sergeant?
And I never noticed it in previous reports, but maybe I wasn't looking. Could you ask them what the COVID-related measure act?
Funny you should say that, because my eye just got onto that and I thought, I don't know what that is, but I agree. I think that I'll do this breakdown so that it's quite user friendly. I mean, theft of truck, I understand that. The other ones I don't. So, okay.
COVID-related Measures Act is the legislation under which the RCMP enforces against people who are contravening health guidelines, more or less.
Gatherings,
that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, thanks, Peter. I did assume that, but I was just wondering if it related to favorite topic, trails, groups, is it beach park, or is it private property kind of stuff, in which case I care less. But
Right.
okay. Okay, so I'll carry this forward. As I said, we've got another topic to address with the staff sergeant, so we'll get some clarity on this. I have put forward, I'll call a motion to receive. Please confirm.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, next up is item number 11. And this is a resolution on the 2021 annual report. And that is that the annual report required under section 97 of the community charter be available for public inspection at the village office and via the village website on or before June 1st, 2021. And that the annual meeting required under section 99 of the community charter be held in conjunction with the regular council meeting on June 15, 2021. And that the notice of the annual meeting under section 94 of the community charter be by way of A, posting in the public notice posting places. And B, publication on the village website and the village updates, and throughout that, the village update distribution on June 4th, June 11th, as being reasonably equivalent to notice that would be provided by newspaper publication if it were practicable. I'll put forward that motion. Can I have a hand for a second, please? Thank you. CAO, quick update on this, if any.
Just meeting the requirements that are set out in the community charter with respect to annual report. And I believe we have we'll have a draft circulating to council in the not too distant future
Yeah. Just for present to the public.
before,
2 weeks, yeah.
before June 1st.
Just my hearing's not so good, CFO, so there'll be something to council before it goes to public.
Yes.
Thank
And
you.
they'll be during that whole 2-week period, anyone can comment, including council.
Okay. All right, council members, any questions? Ken?
But yeah,
Councillor Abbott?
draft, sorry, when do we expect to see the draft and how do we comment?
Comments can just be sent in to staff. And the draft, I mean, we're still working on it. Carla, the plan was to get it out
Next week.
Monday.
I mean, it's a short week. Just let me speak on your behalf. It's a short week. It's update tomorrow. Friday comes very quickly and you guys are doing a ton of stuff. So it's not going to be this week. I'm going to speculate. So that takes us to first week of June. Municipal coordinator, I'm looking at you. Go try and
Well, we have to have it done by June 1st, so.
Yeah, so
okay, so we're gonna,
Friday or Monday. to council.
okay, so I guess the minute it's done, which sounds like it's gonna be June the 1st, Councillor Abbott. You get it, but it's still hot.
Okay, so I was trying to understand if council got to see a draft prior to being going out to the public. I'm guessing the answer is no.
I'm gonna guess the answer is no.
No, yes, yeah. Our
Okay.
plan is to get it out a couple of days before.
Oh, a couple of days before June
Yeah.
1st.
It's a tighter deadline this year just because of when the council meeting falls. We have until June 30th to approve it, but the last council meeting is June 15th.
So we're gonna get something late Friday night or over the weekend. Those are the only
Don't look
dates.
at me. It's Carla who's doing it.
All right, I think you're getting the flavor of the room here, Councillor Abbott. It's the ink is still wet on this stuff and it's just not available yet.
Hopefully on Friday.
Hopefully Friday. Councillor, I'll come back to you, Councillor Abbott. Councillor Coniff?
Yeah, sorry, if we could just circle back to council reports for committees. There was a note about June 2nd. It is Clean Air Day. And I believe the Climate Action Committee was hoping to have something in the VU submitted about anti-idling and just what that means, what the repercussions of that are. I think that Ruth did submit something that has some education pieces on there just for residents to weigh in on, look at the myths about idling, what it actually means, and that we're just hoping to ask staff to be real pioneers and lead by example when it comes to idling in the village. I know maybe the Capilano Road crew are worse offenders, but if we could just make a note about that, and I believe there is education that can be shared with the village in this coming VU. So if there's anything else to add to that, Councillor Barmeyer, maybe Ruth, if you have something quick, if that's okay, if we can circumvent the public participation and allow that dialogue now, would that be okay?
I think Ruth has left the building.
Okay.
So let's just be sure on where we're leaving this. Village
Can I
updates.
just make a quick comment? Ron, I think Carla's already on top of this. She has the language that we forwarded from the Climate Action Committee. My understanding is she's going to try and get something onto the website by tomorrow and into the view by Friday.
I'll also have a discussion with staff before the weekend about this as well.
Thank
All
you
right,
very much.
I'm seeing a thumbs up from Carla, so I think you're in good hands. And okay, so
Thank you,
for
Carla.
Going back, so let's go back to the current topic on the annual report. So where we left it, Councillor Abbott, is that we expect that council will see it modestly before the public on this Friday. Any other questions? Council, any other questions?
I've got another question, but not on this topic.
Call the motion.
I'm calling the motion then. All those in favor, please confirm yes.
Yes,
Those opposed, no. Good. We'll take a break for a second. Councillor Bain, what's your question?
I have to apologize. I had a note on my agenda package that was a result of a conversation you and I had this afternoon about a neighbor's situation. This is supposed to come under council, but I'm sorry I forgot to mention it. If you don't mind hearing it now. It had
Before
to
we go to block watch, so what topic shall we call it? Council reports?
I can't really make out what you're saying. Sounds like you're coming through a kazoo.
So this will be a council report, Councillor Bain?
Yeah, that's right.
Audio is terrible right now coming from you, Rob.
Peter, could you speak? Is it horrible, Peter?
Sounds pretty clear to us. As you guys know,
No.
No, it doesn't sound clear at all. There appears to be something wrong with the mic.
We'll pause for a second. Councillor Bain, sorry for being blurry, but
I take it we're waiting for a correction on the mic. I couldn't hear any of that.
What about now?
It's still the same. It's very fuzzy.
Help?
thank you, Councillor Bain. Could you, you were quite articulate. Okay, we're good. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Carla. Thank you, good. Thank you, Councillor Bain. So Carla, CAO, yes to the something in. Thank you.
I think Public Works Manager Jaffer wanted to ask a question.
Yeah, if we could get the address of where that was, Councillor Bain, I'll reach out to WCS and find out what happened. I do know that they have a new driver on that route, so it may just be a misunderstanding.
Okay, I'll send you that as soon as I figure it out again. It's a house-based or address off of Bayview Place, but the backyard extends to Bayview Road, and it's the how would I just? Well, I'll give it to you.
This sounds like a doggy walk to me tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Please and thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And so thank you, Councillor Bain, for bringing that up. Thank you for the action. Thank you, Public Works Manager. And
Sorry, so sorry, Ron, there is two actions though. One going back to WCS and the other one is to inform residents, because I don't think we've actually done that.
that's going into village update.
But what are we informing residents of?
The fact that
that it's unlimited bags.
Yeah, I don't think there's a misunderstanding about that, is there?
well, we informed them they were limited to 6. Council reversed the decision, but we never went back to village update and said the council reversed the decision. So unless you were listening to the meetings, you'd still think the limit is 6.
I think I'm with Councillor Abbott. I'd like the overkill for just a brief piece in there. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Bain, and everybody else that I've already done. Which brings us to the Block Watch Society. And I'm going to give everybody a heads up because I've just looked at the clock. It's 9:30. I believe we can do this by 10 as I hope we could. So I'm going to give you the early warning, Councillor Barmeyer, to look at your page of correspondence so we can zip through it. But we'll begin now with the Block Watch Society resolution. The council endorses the 2021 membership application for the Block Watch Society BC, and that council direct staff to process the application, and that the Village of Lions Bay Block Watch program be administered by a local resident block watch coordinator. I will put that. Actually, Councillor Abbott, why don't you put that forward? And Councillor Bain, second.
I will put it forward as read. Please don't ask me to read it again.
Thank you. Councillor Bain,
I'll second.
there you go. I think the two of you pushed some stuff here with the CAO and his team. Anybody want to do a quick update? I think we're pretty aware that we're back on the ground again.
I guess we should say we've got our sights set on somebody who is, sounds like they're willing to be the block watch coordinator, and just waiting for that person to clear up some last minute details, and then we should be away with it. All looking really positive right now, but not at the point where we can say for sure that it's going through right now.
Good.
I think we are at the point we can say it's going through now. Now I won't announce a name because maybe there should be another place to do that. But we're all good. Everyone's on board. It's
Can
one
I
more name
ask
from staff, and I've sent the application on to staff. They've got it, and the names are on there. We can submit it.
There you go. I think the name is the name, of course, and I think that maybe let's use that as our benchmark date. For the two of you, can I get either of you or both in cahoots, since you've been doing articles together? If we can see something in the village update in the next 2 weeks or so, once the person's concurred, and that way you can go from where we were to where we are. Would that be okay?
It should be doable, yeah.
Right, well, we'll leave that with the two of you, and I look forward to reading it. Great work, the pair of you. And I'm glad this has come back. It's an important
Yeah.
piece for the
Thank you, Councillor Bain and Councillor Abbott for that.
kudos to you guys. Okay, thank you. I'll call a motion then. All those in favor of the motion, please confirm by saying yes. All those opposed,
Yes.
no.
Yes.
Very much. Thank you very much. Next one is bylaw number 592. Bylaw notice enforcement bylaw amendment. And the recommendation is that bylaw notice enforcement bylaw number 385, 2006, amendment bylaw number 592, 2021 be adopted. I will put forward that motion. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Second. Thank you. All right. Discussion, and how many times this year have we seen this? Okay, now it's this one. All right. I think we went through this significantly for the other readings last time. Here we are. Anything further, Carl? Nope, nothing to add. Any questions for staff? Good. Call a motion. All those in favor, please confirm by saying yes. Those opposed, no.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Passed. That takes us through the bylaws. I'm going to stop here.
Ron, I really apologize. I was trying to get there fast enough. I knew I had a question, but I couldn't get through my notes fast enough. And maybe it's irrelevant. There was one other change. We changed the compliance agreement clause from no to yes. Did we do that in the previous one? Was that happened recently?
Just a second.
413 10A B C D E F G. Is a compliance agreement available? Was changed from no to yes.
Right.
Was that on the previous one when we read it?
Yep.
It is. Can you just
Yeah,
tell me
there
what
was
that means?
A draft agreement, what that looks like. And where's the report?
I can accept that it was there, and I didn't see it before. I think that's
Yeah,
acceptable.
it was there. We did talk about it. I just can't remember what the previous report said in terms of logic and rationale. Sorry, drawing a blank at the moment.
Yeah,
It provides,
If it's what we need, it's what we need and it makes sense, then I'll just withdraw the question, but maybe sometime later, someone can just keep me up to date what that actually means. That's fine.
okay,
We leave this with you.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, okay. Thanks very much for the heads up, Councillor Abbott. Okay, so we'll get our email from the CAO in the next little bit. Thank you. Okay, so back to the bylaw enforcement, 385. Any other questions? Any questions? Last reading,
Was adopted. You already moved it.
already adopted. Thank you. And it's a caution here. Okay, yes, which brings us to Brunswick Beach road closure, and I will stop here and hand this over to the CAO for minutes.
Okay, so with respect to this bylaw, we have an on-table replacement for Schedule A, which consists of a proper reference plan drafted by Chapman Land Surveying, which will be attached as the Schedule A to meet the requirements of the Land Title Act. So that because once adopted, assuming council does adopt it, then it has to be registered in the Land Title Office. The bylaw itself gets registered with this reference plan, and together through Section 120 of the Land Title Act, the Registrar of Land Titles creates the indefeasible title to this little section of land and puts it into the name and ownership of the Village of Lions Bay, after which there would need to be a transfer in accordance with the agreement with the adjacent property owners. So as a result of the change is slightly different wording on the plan itself, so that in Section 1, the reference to Schedule A stays the same. We're just substituting the new plan. And in Section 2, the portion in quotation marks should read part of road dedicated on Plan 10651, Block 18, District Block 1815, Group 1, New Westminster District, bracket, the closed road, and bracket. So what's being deleted is Parcel A and by. We're substituting on instead of by. And with those changes, then the report recommendation number 1 changes ever so slightly to read that road closure bylaw number 604/2021 as amended, be introduced and read and given 3 readings. And then everything else is as is, which is I think fairly straightforward. What we're talking about doing is, and as advertised for the last couple of weeks, is to sell this little triangle piece of land that for some reason takes a jog as the property line goes due north, takes a jog due east to meet up with Brunswick Beach Road, instead of continuing in a straight line to meet up with Brunswick Beach Road. The little section actually slopes away from the road fairly steeply, creating in effect a bit of a hazard if someone's parking there. You can't really get out the passenger side without falling down the bank or risking that. So the owners of the parcel offered to purchase it. We negotiated a price of $33,000. The square footage as surveyed is 20.5 square meters, which is actually 220 square feet. A little bit less than what was estimated, so the effective price per square foot is $150. Deposit of $5,000 has been received, and the requirements would be that after 3rd reading, the bylaw would be sent to the Minister of Transportation for approval under the Transportation Act, which requires that in these circumstances where the land is within 800 meters of an arterial highway, it requires the approval of the Minister of Transportation. So That would be that process, and then assuming that is approved, then it comes back to council for consideration of adoption. There is provision in the agreement with the purchasers that once third reading has been provided by council, they may at their own risk proceed with continuation of the retaining walls that they're preparing up the parcel line that divides their property from number 5 Brunswick. The residents of number 5 were spoken to and are in agreement with the application. And I think that's about it at the moment.
There you go, CAO. We'll go to questions in a second. Is there any changes to the recommendation as per the agenda?
Just the inserting the words as amended after 604, 2021,
As amended,
as amended, comma. And then,
be introduced.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
And then the second time round, it doesn't, you don't need to put as amended. Oh, but I see that there's that extra 5 in there. So in recommendation 2, it should just read bylaw number 604, not 5604.
It should be closure bylaw number
604.
604, not a 5. Thank you. All right, so I think we've got it right. And so the recommendation, which I will call as a motion, put this forward, that road closure bylaw number 604, 2021, as amended, be introduced and given 3 readings. And secondly, that a certified copy of road closure bylaw number 604, 2021, as a 3rd reading, be sent to the Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure for approval prior to bylaw coming back to council for consideration of adoption. May I have a second, please? Thank you. Any discussion? Any questions for the CAO? Good news story coming to an end. Okay, good. I will call the motion. All those in favor, please confirm by saying yes. Those opposed, please say no.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Approved. Thank you very much. And good work on this one, CAO. Councillor Barmer, my eyes on the clock. You have correspondence, sir.
Okay, starting with general correspondence from the city of Campbell River. Basically, Coles notes COVID economic recovery versus old growth trees, and this is a letter for our information, no action required. The next is from B. Murray with respect to a moratorium on wolf hunting. I suggest that we read the information provided in the correspondence and consider it for the next meeting. There's no urgency here. The next piece is Minister Weller, invitation to budget discussions. I'm not sure if this is on your calendar, Ron, or anyone's calendar, but it's for information. The next piece is about youth employment and skills program in agriculture. It looks like there's a granting opportunity, but unfortunately I don't expect there to be any agricultural opportunities within Lions Bay, so it's not directly relevant to us. The next piece is under a similar vein with granting permanent status to temporary workers and international graduates. That doesn't really apply to us directly, so that's received for information. The next piece is from the District of Mackenzie, and I believe we touched on this at the last meeting, and we were in favor of supporting a 988, a suicide prevention hotline. I don't know that there's anything left for us to do specifically. I don't know if staff can maybe just take a look at what we agreed to do in that regard. The next is A. Hodgson, Fair Voting BC. I think this is outdated. The meeting was held on May 13th, so there's nothing for us to do here, unfortunately. The next piece for MP Weiler is Canada Healthy Communities. And I guess I wondered if there's any funding opportunities here or stacking with any kind of grant we have going for the Lions Bay Connector project. If it's about improving mobility, maybe there's some additional money available. So it might be worth looking into. The next is from, believe it, not a non-resident with respect to access to public beaches. And I think generally speaking, if we reopen our parking lots, we will be providing non-resident parking again this season, so that issue should be resolved. The next is from Assistant Deputy Minister with respect to regional, this was something I thought we could consider with the IC. It's sort of about long-term planning. Nothing really urgent here. So for the time being, we can receive this for information. The next piece is from, again, from Spark BC, access awareness. So another potential synergy with the Lions Bay Connector project in terms of accessibility and improving accessibility within the village. The next piece is from the district of Tofino. There's no action here, so this is for information only. The next piece is from the city of White Rock, and there's quite a bit here to unpack, and I would suggest that we take some time to understand what they're asking us to support or endorse before we go ahead and do that. I'm not entirely clear if this isn't worth having a bit more discussion on and understanding the issue before we go in either direction. The next piece is from MP Whaler. Again, looks like there's some new budgets, new programs being rolled out. It might be worth understanding if there's any additional funding available under these proposed budgets. That's something to look forward to. Another piece is work opportunities for young Canadians. Doesn't directly apply to us. We don't really have a co-op program or anything like that to support. The next piece is from Recreation Sites and Trails BC, and I guess my only question was whether we participated in this, because it was information gathering session talking about trail strategy across BC, and there's some interesting findings in there, and I wondered if we provided any kind of input, given that we have a lot of popular trails. The next piece is from MP Whaler. And this is a proposal to support Canada Greener Homes grant. And I don't really know if there's any synergies here or if there's anything we can do to improve our own skill set within the village. So it's maybe worth understanding if there's some opportunities there for funding. And the last piece from general correspondence is from the Sierra Club. And it sounds like there's a presentation happening, essentially talking about healthy forests and what they can offer a community in terms of safety and other issues. So I don't know if it's worth one of our ERP council members to attend or interested in that portfolio, or if someone from the Climate Action Committee should attend, but I'll bring it up as an event in the Climate Action Committee, and I think we can consider someone else here attending that, just informing decisions around fire prevention and that sort of thing. And now we're into resident correspondence. Go ahead, Neville.
Just before you carry on, can I just go back to this trail strategy? I saw the workshop manager shaking his head. So does that confirm we didn't actually participate in that survey? I don't remember the opportunity, to be honest.
No, not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, okay. So I guess maybe it might just be worth reading their findings and to see if there's anything we can learn from it, or because a lot of similar issues.
Yeah, it's a pity we missed the opportunity somehow, but I don't recall it, to be honest. Right, thanks. Okay.
So I'll move on to resident correspondence. We have a request for additional kayak parking from Ms. Montgomery. And I don't know if that's part of the scope of the park renovation project, Ron.
Councillor Barmy, I'll respond to her.
Okay, sounds good. The next piece is former Mayor Burr with respect to the signage project, and that's been responded to by Mayor McLaughlin. The next piece is by resident Davidovitz with regard to TransLink, and I don't know that there's anything we can do. I personally don't have a lot of experience working with TransLink, it's, you know, I'm not sure if someone else is better suited to reply to this resident.
I recommend receiving.
Okay, we'll just receive it for now. Thanks, Mayor McLaughlin. The next piece is from M&J Trollope with regards to the encroachment agreement, and I believe that's dealt with and we've signed it, so we're good to go, right? That's
Correct.
yeah. Okay, so we can close that for information. The next is Mr. and Mrs. Hott with respect to parking and speeding, and I believe Mr. McLaughlin's replied there already. Next piece is from resident Hookstraten with respect to speeding. Again, I believe there's a reply from Mayor McLaughlin already in the mail. And the last piece from the Azordigan family with respect to parking Lower Calvin Grove. And unfortunately, I didn't see any correspondence attached to the package. Is there something missing? Carla or Peter?
All right, well, let's send that. I've got the midfill in front of me. So let's send that to Councillor Bromere then. This is a refresher.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. And so that concludes that. What we have, thank you very much, Councillor Bromere. What we have on table for me is three bird-related items, and that's from Arlene Hackstrom, Bree Stoddard, and from Penny. And I would recommend, Councillor Bromere, that you suggest one of our colleagues respond to them.
I do it seeing as the most noisy about it.
Thank you very much.
If that's okay.
The other two are.
Sorry, just so I didn't miss, this is with respect to the tree cutting moratorium?
Nope, the nesting issue.
Yeah.
Okay, so Councillor Abbott Scott, Hackstrom, Stoddard, and Penny. Vivian O'Keefe made reference to me, so if that's fine, I'll respond to her. And I'll also respond to the last one in this afternoon from Mr. O'Dwyer. So I'll do that, and that cleans us up, and you're concluded in correspondence. Councillor Bromere, a healthy bunch of stuff, and thank you very much. And that concludes that and brings us to the public questions and comments.
Oh, Mayor,
And
if I might mention, there are a few pieces of correspondence that didn't make the make the list that Councillor Barmeyer was reading from. One in particular was a recent one from Marcus Reuter about the urban containment boundary. And I think it's worth mentioning that for those of us who heat their homes with firewood, it's been a very cold winter, or cool May this year. And we get up every morning with a 60-degree house, and all it would take is for us to get out of the urban containment boundary, and life would be so much nicer for a good portion of our community who is overwhelmingly responded to our survey that Councillor Abbott had put out about have your say, that we want more freedom on this area. And I'm just wondering what our progress is in line with the writer of the letter, if we're anywhere closer to getting out of the urban containment boundary.
where we left this was CAO is going to be asking the representative from Metros to see us in the next meeting or two.
Yeah.
And that'll be our chance to deal with that.
Yeah, and just, sort of my recollection of when they previously came was the indication was that any request to undertake an amendment to the regional growth strategy would have to wait until after they deal with Metro 2050. So we can press him on that when he comes, but that would be something that in terms of the timing of how things go. Not to mention the pros and cons, is still lots to discuss there. Anyways, yeah, we'll try to make that happen for the June 15th meeting.
So before I
And
go to Councillor.
if I could, yeah, sorry to interrupt, but from my recollection that it was an ask that we wait until they were done with the 2050. That would have been a kindness extended to them. It was certainly not a constriction by any means. And I just have to say that I echo Councillor Bain's comments and that of the author of the letter. So I would like to see this moved along and have a really good look at it sooner than later.
Thank you very much. Councillor Abbott.
Yeah, I was actually going to say the same thing. That was my recollection as well. And it wasn't a hard, you must do the other one first. And I personally think that the two issues should be separated. I don't necessarily think they're the same thing, so I'd like to see it move along as well.
I think Metro is willing to come, so let's have them here and move the ball a little bit further. Thank you very much. Is that the only piece that didn't hit the table?
There was,
It was R8 and R9. A piece from Norma Rogers, just thinking for the permit only parking on near where she lives. And then the R9 from Cindy David about the drone, concern regarding the drone.
It would appear that on the drone, we've published what we were going to do. So that's done, I think, for Norma Rogers. That's.
I think it's just for information received.
Okay, it's an information piece. So is there anything else? No? Okay.
No.
Okay, that would conclude the
Sorry, there was one
correspondence.
that came
Back to.
Sorry, Ron. Colin, there was one that came really late from Ed Langford. And it was and I maybe this is a discussion we want to consider. It's around what I sent, that email I sent you earlier today. So Ed, who knows the area well, he sent us a little map of what he believes the watershed area is and how you would identify it if you're a hiker. And for everyone's benefits, the idea is, do we do something additional in that stretch of road where some of this behavior is happening, but it's a long way before Channel Bluffs, but that's the area where our drinking water comes from. So I think we should take that away and decide what to do.
I was going to discuss it with staff at our next staff meeting.
Look at the email that Ed sent, because I mean, he does know the area better than any or most, I would suggest.
Thank you very much. Okay, so double final, that's the last of the.
Yeah, that piece of correspondence will come to you in the next agenda along with whatever the research NI has for you.
Okay. All right, lots of correspondence. So that concludes that section. We're back to the public, and there's still some folks in the gallery. If somebody would like from the gallery would like to unmute, you can have your 2 minutes and we'll listen. And if there's more, then we'll go. Or we'll say goodnight. And nobody's unmuting, so I'm going to give it another second. And we will say goodnight. So there is no public participation and there is no closed meeting. There's no reporting out. Motion to adjourn. Can I have a second, please? Thank you very much. All in favor, please confirm yes. I see that. Thank you. Good night, everybody. Bye-bye.